Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before you do anything else today, I need your complete, absolute, and undivided attention. What we are covering in this video is not just some mundane piece of background noise that you can leave playing softly while you make a cup of tea, do the washing up, or potter around in the garden. This is a matter of urgent economic reality that directly impacts your back pocket, your hard-earned savings, your personal bank account, and your everyday fundamental right to access cold, hard physical cash whenever you genuinely need it most. We have now officially arrived in the month of August in the year 2026. And right from the very start of this month, right here across the length and breadth of the United Kingdom, millions of people, especially our valued pensioners, retirees, and senior citizens, are going to discover, quite possibly at the worst imaginable moment, that using and withdrawing your own physical cash has turned into an increasingly delicate, deeply frustrating, and bureaucratic nightmare. Let me be perfectly transparent with you right from the absolute outset. Your money is still legally yours, and nobody is attempting to confiscate your lifetime of hard-earned savings. Please do not panic on that front. Your savings remain your personal property. However, as we stand here right now in August 2026, every single movement of physical currency within the British banking sector is being scrutinized by regulatory authorities under a massive, completely unforgiving magnifying glass. The level of administrative control and regulatory severity we are witnessing across high street institutions today is something we have simply never seen in the past. Your standard debit card will still technically allow you to walk up to an automated teller machine, or a cash point, as most of us call it, to request your funds. But behind the scenes, high street commercial banks have quietly applied incredibly rigid daily and monthly structural limits. The real sting in the tail for the average customer is that these automated blockages are almost always discovered only when you are standing on the high street, in real time, trying to execute an urgent, time-sensitive, or deeply personal financial transaction. It is a stressful, embarrassing, and deeply humiliating experience that is currently catching thousands of honest, law-abiding people completely off guard. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that many pensioners could be eligible for a new extra support payment of £200. If you have not heard about this yet, I have left detailed information from an official source in the comments below the video. Make sure to check it out. And now, let us move on to the topic of today's video. To really understand how this restrictive system operates on a practical level in our daily lives, I want you to vividly picture a scenario that I am certain will resonate with almost every single person watching this video today. Imagine walking down to your local trusted cash point on a bright August morning. It is the exact same cash machine you have relied upon for 5, 10, 15, or perhaps even 20 years. It is part of your comfortable, automatic weekly routine. You pull out your wallet, insert your debit card into the slot, punch in your 4-digit secret personal identification number, select the precise amount of money you require, and wait for the machine to whir into life. It is a simple, seamless habit that you have performed thousands of times throughout your adult life without giving it a second thought. But on this occasion, instead of the familiar, comforting sound of paper banknotes being counted out behind the plastic screen, something goes entirely wrong. The machine falls completely silent. A cold, clinical, utterly unexpected error message flashes up on the electronic display, informing you that your withdrawal request has been formally refused. Or perhaps, even worse, the transaction is authorized for only a tiny, measly fraction of the amount you actually requested, leaving you standing on the pavement completely dumbfounded, holding a single £10 note when you desperately needed hundreds to cover an immediate expense. In that precise second, your peaceful morning routine is shattered. A sudden, intense wave of anxiety hits you in the chest, and you start asking yourself why on earth this is happening to you and what you could have possibly done wrong. Is there something wrong with your account? Has your card been compromised? Have your life savings been frozen without your knowledge? And this, my friends, is precisely where the true distressing nightmare begins for millions of honest citizens up and down the country. Anyone who remains completely oblivious to the stringent new banking frameworks fully implemented this August 2026 runs the very real risk of feeling like a suspected criminal, when in absolute reality, they are merely attempting to access their own money. This is money built upon a lifetime of hard work, personal sacrifices, and decades of paying taxes into the state system. This distressing operational reality stems from the indisputable fact that the United Kingdom's banking network simply does not function the way it used to, and understanding this monumental structural shift is your absolute first line of economic self-defense. I am certainly not telling you all of this to stir up unnecessary panic or to spread alarmist headlines for the sake of getting views. I am bringing these facts to light because these are the concrete, undeniable operational realities on the ground for this month of August 2026. While your standard debit card is technically designed to serve a dual purpose, allowing you to make point-of-sale terminal payments in retail shops and to pull physical currency out of automated machines, your legal ability to withdraw cash from the wall is now subject to strict, unyielding, daily and monthly caps. Crucially, these withdrawal caps are established entirely autonomously by each individual banking group and financial institution. What this means for you in practical terms is that there is no longer a uniform, standardized rule across the high street. Your personal experience will depend entirely on which financial institution holds your current account. One retail bank might permit a maximum daily withdrawal threshold of £500, whilst a competitor bank, located right next door, might enforce an entirely different, much lower ceiling of just £200. When you find yourself staring at an unexpected rejection message at a cash point screen, it is highly likely that there is absolutely nothing wrong with the mechanical hardware of the machine itself. Instead, it is the bank's central computer network simply executing the exact digital security commands it has been programmed to enforce under the latest regulatory compliance laws. Understanding that this is a digital software lockout rather than a hardware fault brings us directly to a crucial point that a staggering number of people completely underestimate, but which I personally consider to be the most vital element of this entire discussion. Let us clear up one major misconception straight away. Physical cash remains entirely legal tender in the United Kingdom. Nobody has outlawed the physical note sitting in your leather wallet, and nobody has abolished the British pound sterling. However, whilst physical currency remains completely legal, its day-to-day practical usage is now being monitored with a degree of digital severity and administrative oversight that would have seemed completely unthinkable just a few short years ago. If we examine the broader financial landscape across the country, general operational thresholds for moving physical cash are being kept under an extraordinarily tight leash. You must be exceptionally careful not to blur the legal boundaries between making a simple, straightforward withdrawal from your own personal current account and the act of transferring or paying large sums of physical cash to a third party. Under British banking law, these are two completely distinct financial concepts. Those who inadvertently blur these legal lines risk finding themselves in a state of immense bureaucratic confusion at the exact moment when they desperately require absolute mental clarity and fast access to their funds. The genuine underlying reason why all of this is becoming so exceptionally heavy-handed is that commercial banks, building societies, and even the post office network are now bound by exceptionally stringent anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing compliance obligations. These legal mandates and corporate responsibilities have reached their absolute historical peak of operational enforcement in this month of August 2026. To put it in plain, straightforward English, if a transaction appears to an automated banking algorithm to be even minutely suspicious, or if it deviates even slightly from the long-term historical transaction profile of the account holder, the financial institution is legally obligated to intervene immediately. Bank officials are legally forced to dig deeper, demand comprehensive verbal and written explanations, and, where predefined financial thresholds are breached, submit a formal, mandatory suspicious activity report directly to relevant government authorities. Let me be unequivocally clear about this vital detail. Triggering an automated internal bank check or being asked a series of personal questions by a branch cashier does not mean you have broken the law. It does not mean you are guilty of any criminal offence whatsoever. What it does mean, however, is that the modern British banking network is fundamentally hardwired to monitor your every single financial move with far more operational suspicion than ever before in history. Banks are now legally compelled to transmit system alerts regarding unusual transaction patterns without a single moment of delay. Your physical cash activity is being constantly evaluated by automated artificial intelligence systems around the clock, even when the frequency or the overall scale of your withdrawals seems perfectly logical and reasonable to you. If your request fails to align with what the bank's automated algorithms deem to be standard behavior for your specific age demographic or income bracket, the system will flag and block it automatically. It is precisely within this complex, bureaucratic labyrinth of digital surveillance that so many customers, particularly our older generation and pensioners, find themselves utterly lost, confused, and blindsided. A person in their 70s or 80s traditionally views a high street bank branch as a safe, secure, and welcoming pillar of the local community. It is a place where they naturally expect to walk in peacefully, withdraw their own money, have a polite, pleasant chat with the counter staff, and walk back out onto the high street without feeling like they have just undergone a hostile police interrogation. Yet, the stark, unvarnished reality of August 2026 is that if a particular account movement looks even slightly anomalous to a computer program, the customer service representative behind the glass counter is legally required to ask you for highly detailed, intrusive clarifications. Branch staff may demand to verify the exact original source of the funds, ask you to produce receipts or contracts to prove the intended destination or purpose of the cash, and they even possess the legal authority to temporarily freeze your transaction entirely until their compliance officers are fully satisfied. This is no longer just a minor technical detail hidden away in fine print at the back of a terms and conditions booklet. This represents a profound, historic, and fundamental transformation in the traditional relationship between the British citizen and the banking sector. The true tragedy of this modern setup is that the average person only discovers these rigid, administrative frameworks when they are caught right in the middle of a genuine, high-stress domestic emergency. Picture a realistic scenario where you suddenly require a substantial amount of physical cash to cover an unexpected private medical bill, to provide immediate emergency financial assistance to a struggling child or grandchild, or to pay a local tradesman for an urgent household repair, like a burst water pipe or a collapsing roof during a storm. You rush down to the nearest branch or cash point, and only then do you realize that your debit card limits prevent you from pulling out the necessary funds. You might discover to your horror that you are forced to spread the total withdrawal over 3 or 4 consecutive days, or that you are hit with an astronomical administrative penalty fee for exceeding your standard transaction allowance. This is exactly why, in this current economic climate, anyone who still relies heavily on physical cash can no longer afford the luxury of remaining uneducated or passive on these critical financial matters. Rather than feeling discouraged or defeated by these institutional developments, let us shift our complete focus onto the practical, actionable steps that you need to take right now to defend your savings and ensure you never find yourself stranded without access to your money. First, stop assuming your withdrawal limits match anyone else's. Contact your bank today and get exact figures on your daily ATM limit, monthly withdrawal ceiling, and any hidden fees for frequent transactions. Do not wait for an emergency to discover these rules. Second, plan large cash needs well in advance. Sudden last-minute requests are the primary trigger for automated security blocks and questioning by branch staff. Scheduling withdrawals days or weeks ahead is vital in an era of total digital tracking. Third, review your bank statements meticulously. Check your transaction history line by line against your bank's latest policy updates to spot unexpected fees or restrictions early. This is essential economic self-defense. Fourth, always carry valid photo ID when visiting a branch. Even if staff have known you for 20 years, modern compliance laws mean cashiers cannot skip mandatory identity checks. Fifth, remember that you are not powerless. If a bank treats you unfairly, lodge a formal complaint. If it goes unresolved, escalate it for free to the Financial Ombudsman Service, an independent body that settles consumer disputes without costly lawyers. Behind these barriers sits an automated, highly rigid system. You cannot ignore these frameworks, but understanding them puts you in control. My advice for August is simple. Stay informed, check your statements, plan large withdrawals early, and never assume your card will dispense unlimited cash on demand. Preparation makes all the difference between resolving an issue with confidence and staring helplessly at a locked screen. If you found this useful, share it with family and friends who still rely on cash. The worst time to learn about these rules is during a crisis. Knowing the facts in advance ensures you stay in control of your financial destiny. Thank you for watching, stay vigilant, and stay prepared.